box and the green box, little box and the blue one, box and the yellow one and the little.
If your algorithm looks anything like mine, then you know that not a day in July went by where you could go without seeing a thunderstruck kick line being impersonated by a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader fangirl. Whether it was the rigorous auditions, the unforgettable game day moments, or the personal stories of these dancing athletes, the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders showed us why they earned the nickname of America's Sweethearts. And while we truly couldn't get enough of this Netflix documentary, we also couldn't help but wonder, are these polished faces hiding something underneath their big hair? We discuss this and more on today's episode of You Can Call Me Karen. Hello, and welcome to the You Can Call Me Karen podcast, where we discuss events from the world around us in an effort to highlight our similarities rather than our differences. I am Manny Rosa, and I'm joined by two of my dearest friends, Stephanie J. Hey, Steph. And Karen Horwitz. Hi, Karen.
Hello.
And actually, let's make that three of my dearest friends, because today we are continuing our conversation with the incomparable founder, CEO, and intuitive eating baddie from Align Nutrition, Erica Butler. Pew, 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 pew.
I knew that
Hi,
was coming.
Erica.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yes, thank you. We're so happy that you are here joining us. For those of you who missed last week's episode, we're mad at you, but go back and listen. But Erica, for our listeners who are just joining in, can you tell us today a little bit about you and what you do for a living?
Yes. So I'm a dietitian, and in my practice, I work with clients with disordered eating, eating disorders, body image concerns. So I work with a lot of athletes. We get into the science of nutrition. I provide counseling on how to fuel for your life, find pleasure, and just balance around food and really what that looks like for any individual that's in front of me. And I'm excited to be here talking about these topics today.
Thank
Yay.
you. Yes, you are just so incredible, and you've provided all of us with such wonderful knowledge as we navigate food, eating, body image. So we are so glad that you are here today, especially because we're continuing our series on the DCC Netflix series, where we're going to be taking a peek underneath the pom-poms in an effort to discover, there's going to be a lot of dance analogies here. Are these gemstones and pristine white boots all glitz and glamour, or is this American dream more of a nightmare? Before we get into all of that, we have to talk about who you calling Karen this week. Karen, I heard you have a story, but Erica, since you are like Kelsey from DCC and now seasoned vet on the You Can Call Me Karen pod, we invite you to share with us who you calling Karen this week.
My Karen story was quite recent. It happened 2 weeks ago, in fact. I was, much like Ari, I am a short gal. And so I was picking up some alterations that I had done at the dry cleaner. And when you walk into the dry cleaner, there is like a checkout area, and then there's a door that buzzes you up to the area where you pick up your alterations. So I walk in, Karen walks in behind me, and
Karen.
there's a woman being helped at the counter in front of us. And so I know the process. I know that you end up going upstairs to the alterations. And apparently she did too. But being the polite person that I am, I wait for the woman to finish helping the person in front of me. Karen behind me shouts out, "I need to go up to alterations." And I said, "Oh, is this how this works?" And so I followed her upstairs. You know, at any point while we're walking upstairs, when we realized that we're both there for alteration, she could have let me go first because I was there before her. but she did not.
Right.
Oh,
Mm.
So we get upstairs to the woman to pick up our alterations, and she is, hey, I'm here to pick up my alterations, but I need to try them on first. And so the woman politely tells her, oh, you're picking them up. You pick them up downstairs. So I'm standing behind her, totally satisfied. But this is where the Karen aspect comes in. So this woman essentially cut me in line. She was rude to the person who was working there. And then she turns around, makes eye contact with me, rolls her eyes like a knowing, like, oh, these people,
like you're in on this with her.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And I just stared right through her and at her at the same time, if that makes sense.
It does, because you can do that. Like, guys, don't let Erica.
Don't cross Erica.
Don't be the one, okay?
Audacity on her part.
Yeah.
You cut me. I made it clear to you that what you did was rude, and you continue to do it. And then now you want to connect with me over this moment?
Right. Yeah.
So
that makes me think of, like, when we talk on this podcast of, like, a lot of what I believe to be Karen behavior is targeted at people in service, and doing a service for you. And that's what I think is, like, the, like, entitlement, is that she wanted to, like, kind of nudge you of, like, these people, right? And it's like, what, huh? Like, that is, like, just this, like, air of, like, ugh, I can't believe, like, I came here and these people are not catering to my every need, and it's like, they're doing their job.
And if she had waited for the person to help us downstairs, she would have been told, oh, you pick up alterations here. And she wouldn't have tried to, get ahead of the system by marching upstairs in front of me. And it felt like your time is apparently more important than mine. You need to get out of here. You need to go about it this way. Your time is more important than everyone else here. It just,
oh my God, when you said that,
so entitled.
There's this episode of, obviously I quote Friends a lot and Sex and the City. And there's an episode of Sex and the City here, where Carrie Bradshaw's walking down the street and she's having a bad day and someone brushes past her and she goes, "You're so busy. You're so busy." And that pops into my head when someone, like, zooms past you on the road or cuts in front of somebody in line. Like, "You're so busy."
Yes. I'm gonna start tracking that now. That's amazing.
What are we? Dry cleaner Karen sounds like a real
dry
piece.
cleaner Karen.
Yes.
Alteration Karen.
There you go. We got to start labeling them.
Yes, we'll keep track. Speaking of Karen, hello, you.
Hi,
co-host.
I have comedy show Karen. I actually have comedy show Karen and Chad. It was on fire. So Bob and I love comedy. So for our 15th anniversary, I got us tickets to go see Ronnie Chang, if you're familiar with him. He's on The Daily Show. He is so funny. And I was super excited. I got us really good tickets. Went, had a whole, like, night. At the show, he was doing his, his comedy thing.
His bit,
his routine. I don't act. Act, I think, is what I was looking for. And then all of a sudden, he, like, stopped and he started talking to the people in the front row. And at first you were like, maybe he's doing, like, crowd work. Maybe this is part of his bit. He's like, I'm sorry, am I interrupting your conversation? He was, like, talking to a couple of people in the front row. And you thought, like, oh, maybe he's gonna, engage the audience. And then he was like, no, seriously, like, I am here for a lot of people and you can't stop talking for an hour while I do my set. And and then all of a sudden you realize, like, oh, this is real. Like, he's really upset.
We're
and so
in
then
an improv show.
He kind of said it. He definitely got their attention. He's for those that don't know him, he's from Malaysia. I think his family is originally from China. And so he plays to like a really big Asian crowd. Like he does a lot of bits about like which countries you're from. And so he like kind of made a joke out of it and was like, which country are you from? And I think they were Korean, and he did a whole bit about Koreans and whatever. And then he tried to like move past it. And like 1 minute later, he went back to them and he was like, seriously, you guys, I am doing a show for thousands of people who paid to be here and listen to me, not you. And then he like called security down, and like security came and talked to them. It was crazy. And Bob and I were so upset for Ronnie Chang, like for him, because he was like, yeah, he's up here trying to do an act that's like making everybody laugh. And he is like being clearly distracted by these people. And so security came down, and he kind of like, fumbled his way to get like back into his routine, and it was fine. But then it felt like the whole fucking night there was like people like wooing, and like I don't know if they thought they were helping him, like, we love you, Ronnie. Somebody fucking yelled, we love you, Ronnie, in the middle of his act. It was infuriating. It was just Karens galore. All the Karens came out to this damn show to heckle this poor comedian who's like putting himself out there in front of all of these people. And he was like, he said something about like, people pay to see me talk, not any of you. Like, you all shut up. And I thought it was so good of him to say that. But yeah, it was like, and this one man kept like hollering from behind us. We left the show like, what the hell is going on in Chicago? I'm like, he's never going to want to come back. It was, yeah. Anyways, so Ronnie Chang, I'm sorry that Chicago audience sucked that night, but we loved you, and please come back.
Oh my God.
It was just a room full of Karen and Chads.
The etiquette of like going to a show and being in and not knowing what to do.
Seriously,
I don't know.
Like laugh, clap. That is it. You are done down, after that.
Be present. Yeah. You are not entitled to talk. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. I don't know what that was, but anyways, poor Ronnie.
I feel Ronnie because as a teacher, when these kids be talking when I'm trying
I'm like, excuse me, this is where they pay me the big bucks.
It's so distracting, and it takes you like it. Especially now that as I'm getting older too, like I legit forget what I was saying. And so I don't know. I feel for you, Ronnie. Like that's
and you could tell he did have a little bit of that where he was like,
you lose your
out of his routine. Yeah. And then he had to kind of like figure out where he was. And it was a good show too. I just felt like it would have been better if people would shut their damn mouths. So anywho, that's my Karen.
Well, thank you. And listeners, this is what it's like when you unleash your inner Karen. So let's get into it. We cannot deny that Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders made such an impact on the psyche of the American millennial this summer. I mean, I desperately tried not to watch this series, and somehow I caved. And then once I was in, I think I binged it in less than a week, which if you are a mother of 3 kids, you know that is like borderline insanity. So as I was watching, I kept texting. I didn't know anybody else who had watched it as like recently as I did, except for our guest, Erica. And at that time, I remember like texting you, Erica, and being like, oh my God, I'm like so obsessed, but also like, I hate myself for loving this so much, you know? So it's kind of where I want to begin today. Like our show is intended to bring in popular culture trends and media stories because, well, as my nieces put it, we are such millennials. That's what they said when they listened to our first episode.
Oh my God.
So sticking to the purpose and meaning of our show, it's obvious to me that pop culture icons historically come with a level of tragedy. that exists underneath the surface. I'm thinking about our love, MJ, Steph, Brittany, Whitney Houston, etc. So when we get this breakage of the fourth wall, like we did in the docuseries of America's Sweethearts, what is a healthy way to engage with the celebrity while also understanding there is something nefarious going on that we can't always see? And so before I get you guys' response, I want to read a part from this Vox News article, The Ugly Process of Turning Beautiful Women into Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. And I just want to read a little blurb. Blurb? It sounds like something that comes out of my son's butthole. Okay, I'm gonna read a little piece here, and then I want to get your reaction. So it says the punishing system that creates these picture perfect performers is built on a pyramid of harmful ideals, sky high expectations, regressive beauty standards, dangerous physical demands, seductive but false ideas of sisterhood, and exploitative working conditions. Throughout the show, we witness firsthand behavior that's usually only brought to light when someone decides to blow a whistle on a sorority, a fraternity, or a cult. The type of manipulation and skewed thinking that's usually never discussed until the traumatic ordeal is over. The most compelling thing about America's Sweetheart isn't that this behavior exists. It's that it's all caught proudly on camera. So, Erica, I'm going to start with you because I sent you this article, and this quote in particular was one that you reacted to when I sent you that article. So, given, this, what we've talked about and the undertones of the show, what are your reactions to that? Or is there any moment that you were, while watching the show, you were like, they put that in there? Like that you were just kind of like, wow.
That's what's interesting about it with when the docuseries was put together, the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders as an organization, they gave editorial rights to the Netflix crew. So I wonder what they think. Because I think they were proud of what they were showing. And I don't know if there's a lack of awareness or just that, the way the show starts out with the monologue of, what is her name again? Oh my God, why am
Kelly, the coach?
The owner's daughter, Cheryl.
Yeah, I think it's Cheryl. Sounds about right.
Yeah, her monologue.
Looks like a Cheryl.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot her name. But her monologue about, sisterhood, it's a privilege to be here, legacy, tradition. And it's almost like she doesn't realize what she's setting up. Because there's this way that the women are being used for profit, the way, Kelly and Judy are proud that they've become a profitable entity, but it's being sold back to them as privilege. You're lucky to be here. So it's an interesting, femininity, women's work, capitalism. It just is, I don't think it's unique to this docuseries and the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, but it really highlighted so many issues that I think we face today as women.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's not something we talked about last time, but that contradiction of, in one breath, they're saying, we have made this a profitable, I think, multi-million-dollar organization. And then literally moments later, it's a privilege for the dancers to be here. This is not a full-time, full-paying job. They all need to have other jobs in order to make ends meet. And it's like, wait, you want them to literally give up their identity to be privileged to be part of this group and do it without making money? It's infuriating, especially considering what those football players make. And they, by the way, deserve to make a lot of money. They are putting their bodies at risk every weekend, often getting themselves injured, losing their jobs, whatever, they should make money. But that doesn't mean the girls, like the cheerleaders, shouldn't also make money when they're making lots of money.
Who are also, by the way, risking their bodies. I mean, the amount of surgeries that those dancers are going to need from doing those drop kicks. We saw it. You saw
the one sister.
And they don't get insurance like the players do, right? They're getting paid minimum wage. So their body damage stuff, they're going to have to pay for it out of pocket without insurance.
Oh my gosh. It's infuriating.
Yeah. Steph, what about you? What was something that was proudly caught on camera that you were like, what the?
Proudly caught on camera. You stumped me. You stumped me. Come back to me on this one.
Okay, I have one that we didn't talk about last episode that I was thinking of. The church. I couldn't believe that. The prayer. Everybody gathered here. Let's pray for the Dallas Cowboy football team.
Yeah.
Right? And like I sent you guys a video, Karen and Steph, of like this term, spiritual malpractice. Like that is what I felt like I experienced in that moment of like the connection to prayer, faith, religion that is surrounded around this football team. And maybe that's like Southern culture. And I don't understand because that's not like, and I've been in church services where the preacher like jokingly talks about, Lord, these commanders, or, like, let me end this service quickly so we can get to watch the football game, like jokingly, but like to really open up the sermon and most of the service being centered. And I don't know if that was like, they did that because Netflix was going to be there, but also like as a spiritual entity, like, why would you do that? So I just found that to be like just jarring. I was like, this is a church service? I don't know if that is a place that I would go back and visit, if that was how they centered the spirituality and the spiritual teachings for
and you're talking about the guy that's like, God loves Dallas.
God loves Dallas. Yes. Yes. But he doesn't love New Jersey, and he doesn't love Ohio, and he doesn't love Illinois. Okay.
Yeah, Dallas, a man-made drawing on a map. Like it's not even like a real boundary. I mean, listen, you are like, the religious undertones here were super strange to me. The like emphasis on the one rookie, and I'm blanking on all of their names. Thank you, Reese.
Yeah.
And like her relationship to the church, which like to each their own. If that's, if that's the community that you identify with, if those are your beliefs, I am not going to judge you on that. What is odd to me is everything that the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, like, on its complete surface stand for, and like the hypersexualized dancing, the very small costumes, the like need to, I don't know, please all of the male audience members or female audience members. And then being like, but we're so godly. It was very jarring to me, that contradiction. It was very strange. And the fact that nobody acknowledged that contradiction. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Well,
but
Reese
that
was
felt
definite.
Weird.
It will be interesting to see how season 2 goes, especially because an alumni from Ohio State is going to be on the team this year, and hopefully we get to see more of her. Abby Summers. But I think going back to our like the conversation from last week of like the look and you're chosen. Reese was chosen for a reason. The coaches put Reese to be one of the like through line stars in all the episodes. They did that. Netflix probably said who would be the one to follow around, and they said Reese because they wanted to put forth this pure, innocent figure who could represent the face of the organization. That's why she got to do the flower thing for Dolly Parton. and nobody else got to. And that like brings me back to that quote of like the sisterhood, the false ideas of sisterhood. Those kind of things are actually done to pit the dancers against one another. That happened a lot when I danced on the Cavs. And so I don't know. I just think that like that was she was an intentional choice, in my opinion, of being somebody who they wanted to like show as a representative of like, this is Texas, big hair, cute button eyes, like booming personality. Godly. We're getting married. Yeah, we're getting married, so you don't have to worry about my sexuality. And I was also going to say, and Steph, I'd be curious about how you feel about this. The little outfits are okay when they're on white women.
Yeah.
When it's a load of Black women in those little tiny outfits, it's all of a sudden disgusting, shameful. But when it's a group of tiny white women, it's okay.
I feel like the uniform fittings, like that whole experience that they were probably showing, and like the girls walking in, like, you know, you could feel like they're like closing their eyes, like taking deep breath, you know, and like, you know, holding their stomach in, and then they're talking about what's fleshy and what's hanging out, and like, you know, and then, you know, in the interviews they're saying, well, there's only 3 sizes that you could possibly wear. And I'm just thinking of all these different body types that are just immediately excluded from being DCC simply because of the uniforms. And then to go back to what you were saying about just like that religious aspect with Reese, and that like in the sexualization of like, you know, the cleavage and the top, the knot and the shorts and everything. And it's like, A, contradictory to this wholesome America's sweetheart messaging. And B, it is so exclusive. You know, just thinking about, you know, if we, even in my prime, as, you know, when I was a decent dancer and stuff, my body would never fit into a uniform that looked like that in my best shape. You know, it's just it's exclusive.
Yeah. I saw the religion show up around the appearances too, with like the men had to hold footballs so they weren't like touching the women. And it's like, we don't hold men accountable for their actions. It's like, just hold this, which felt very keep sweet and obey, look a certain way, you know, be submissive, be here, be available.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, be available, but not too available. Like it's like there's a very small whole needle that they're trying to thread there. And
you're bringing to a point that we didn't talk about last time, and I didn't put into what I wanted to talk about in my notes, but there was an instance on the show that was caught on camera, speaking of like what they portrayed on camera. And it was when Dolly Parton was a part of the halftime show, and the coach Kelly was so excited about all the like notoriety that they were receiving, that when it came to her attention that one of her dancers had just been assaulted, she was like on her phone. They say this in the article. She's just like on her phone, like, huh? And then it's almost like someone in the background was like pointing at the camera, like,
pretend to care, pretend to care.
Yeah. And then that, right? Oh, God. Pretend to care. And so to your point, Erica, like you do almost wonder about how they talk about the invitation of men and what to do when that attention is put on you, even though it feels uncomfortable, and how you hand it. It just makes you wonder how they're coached through that experience and what that does to them. Like, again, they're 20 to ages. Well, wait, Reese was like some of them are just out of high school, or no? Can you audition just out of high
college
school?
Mostly.
Out of
I think they were mostly like 21, 22.
Yeah. Oh wait, the youngest
there was one who was
19.
out of high school though, right?
I think
it was Jersey girl.
Yeah.
I think Matt. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so they're so young. They've never happened to them before. And it just is like, this is their first real exposure to that kind of predatory behavior. And it just makes me
And there's no
wonder.
protection for them. Like when
There's
Kelsey's
none.
car had gotten air tagged, it's like your eyebrows need to look this way, but oops, like sorry that happened to you. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, and like
Right,
when they
it's
send
true.
them on, they send them on like appearances. Like who goes with them, or like
right.
you
No,
know,
they're like just showing up on their own. I
on
felt
their
that
own.
too.
They
It's
hop
like
in their own car.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you force them to wear these very revealing uniforms, and you force them to put their hair and their makeup in a certain way, and you want the male audiences to lust for them, and then
Mhm.
when you send them out into the world, you're like, good luck to you. I
Yeah.
just like sent a mob after you, and I'm not going to do anything to protect you. Like that struck me when they're showing up to those events and they're both pulling up in their cars and like hopping out and being like, hey, like it's just us
Well,
out in the world.
that goes back to the conversation about pay. Like, and I remember, like, I didn't really talk a little bit about a lot about my experience on the Cavs, but I remember that being one of the things that was most defeating for me, because I was driving to practices 3 times a week from Columbus to Cleveland, which is a 2-hour drive.
Oh my
So then on
gosh.
top of that, to have to come back to Cleveland to do appearances just to make above minimum wage was like, I cannot do this, And then I remember having like real intrinsic thoughts about like, how I'm going to become famous? I'm going to run out onto that court. I'm going to steal the basketball. I'm going to make a layup and I'm going to leave. And I'm going to be ESPN
Oh my
famous, you know?
gosh. Oh my God.
Like as I'm on the
Oh
sideline, like, should I do
Manny.
it? I know.
I
Like that's like one of
wish
my
you would have
biggest
done
regrets
that.
in life
Oh
of
my,
not going like Manny out.
Monica,
But
you
like,
told me that you like wanted to do that, and I like dreamed about it for you. Like I wanted you to run down the line like in high five. This is when LeBron was still playing too. Like it just high
yes.
five all the players down the field.
Yes. Well, that was when I had that like out of body moment of like LeBron James and I are the same age and he's a
Yes.
freaking millionaire and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing this.
Making $24.95 to
If
perform
that,
at a Cavs game.
to perform at a Cavs game. Yes. So
Yeah. Oh
anyway,
my gosh, Manny,
yes.
I'm just like
I know. Can you
sad that
see
you
it in your
didn't do
mind?
that.
I know. I'll go back and reenact it one day. All right. I'm going to move us along because we're going to be short on time, but I want to get to a couple more questions. Speaking of the coaches, we touched base about this a little bit last episode, but let's really get into it. Their credibility. Here's another quote from that same article. As Kelly and Judy admit, both were inducted into the DCC in an era where there was less emphasis on dancing skills. It's unclear whether their current authority is based on real life experience or just handed down from the Jones family. Yet, they inflict their arbitrary standard of professionalism and appeal with a self-righteous confidence. So, what do you think about the authority of these women and their coaching style? Steph, I'm particularly curious because you're a dance teacher. So I want to make sure I'm framing this in a right way for our listeners, because I don't think it's just like any other coach, right? Like the basketball coaches who coach for the NBA can no longer like do what they were doing when they were playing in the league, right? And so I don't want it to be like that doesn't make you credible because you can no longer do like flatte turns and to a split jump, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these two women, Kelly and Judy, are clearly my antagonists in this story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think other people too. Why are they allowed to have this approach under the guise of professionalism, do you guys think? And again, I'll throw that to Steph first and then we can go from there.
I think it's tricky because it speaks to what I noticed like in last episode about who they are choosing to be on the team. So they have this such a high bar of ability that they expect these dancers to have, though the choreography that they do doesn't need you to be able to do. switch arabesques and quadruple pirouettes and all these things, but these dancers have to have those skills. So if you're talking about the fact that they're coaching a team full of collegiate dance team dancers who have these like crazy backgrounds, or, you know, dancers who would come out of my studio who's done convention and like the dance awards and like all this crazy stuff. If you're talking about it from that perspective, then in my personal opinion, I don't think that they have the credibility to be choosing a team with all this, like all the accolades that these dancers come to DCC for. But what they do have is the legacy, the main, you know, like, you know, one thing that did stand out to me was like the uniforms that they maintained, though tiny, and we hate them, but they were like they're like the only thing that they changed was just made them a little sparklier. Like they that thread line of like Thunderstruck and stuff, and they've been on that field and all that kind of thing. And so I think about like, you know, college dancing coaches, like having been one, there's like that tradition, Ohio State traditions. There's certain things that you have to keep on, like honored, I guess. And so they do have that aspect of it. So this is a tricky question for me because of, like, if you're talking about dance know-how and like what they can, then not necessarily, but from the business aspect and the productivity, or what's the word, like profitability, the like the production, the DCC image, you know, they do have the in on what that is.
I think like when I read this at first, Manny, like the quote about the coaches and their credibility, not every professional sports coach was that athlete. Like, I don't think, and I equate this to my work as well. Like, if you're a good leader, that doesn't mean you were a good individual contributor. Like, those are different skill sets. A good coach doesn't necessarily have to have been a good player to, you know, those are two different skills. So my first reaction was like, I mean, I agree that Kelly and Judy are definitely the antagonists of the story, but that's not the thing I would pick at them for. However, Steph, you talking about your like teaching experience, dance teaching experience, is I would say something that would add credibility. Like, they don't have, to my knowledge, they don't have experience teaching in studios, coaching other dance teams. Like, it seems like their only qualification is having had been on the team, which actually I would argue doesn't make you a qualified coach. All of that said, for what they are trying to do, they clearly have done it. It's just, is it what we feel good about at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
I think they perpetuate a lot of the ideals of the organization, which works for the people in charge.
Yeah.
They're not soliciting feedback from the dancers. How is it going for you?
Yes.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And
well, that was the part of the question, right? Of like, is it because of their experience, or is it because of the Jones family saying we have bestowed this upon you? And then that goes into this, like, that's what makes it hard for the dancers to question their authority, is because they have the support of the Jones family, who is like, right, the bucko billionaires of America. And so it makes it hard for you, to Erica's point, it makes it hard if you're a dancer to be able to stand up to anything they say or give any kind of feedback, because the Jones family is the ones who are really actually maybe the antagonist in this story, who we all knew that before. But
yeah, I was going to say, like, Erica's, your point there was like, oh, it's the same, like, fundamentals of this team as it is for the Cowboys themselves. Like, isn't Jerry Jones, right? Isn't he like notoriously kind of a piece of shit, like a racist piece of shit? Sorry.
No, what do you mean? He kneels
There's a
on
gag
the
order and a
star.
mistress. Yeah.
What'd you say?
There's a gag order and a mistress. Jerry Jones. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not confusing him with another Jerry Jones. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those parallels are interesting. Like, what does the Cowboys like culturally stand for or in principle stand for, and how has that flowed down to the cheerleading team. It's not a big surprise now that we don't pay these girls and we expect them to see this as a privilege and fall in line and do as they're told. So
and someone else will be picked if not them. So I can't blame the dancers that they're not, like, I would love to see someone take a stand, but I think that would just be seen as complaining and they would be pushed out.
And that's how they keep them all in line. Yeah.
Yep. And that's how they keep millions of girls coming out to try out for the team, you know? Like it's a pretty strange cycle. But I was thinking, like, as you guys were talking, there were, I guess I forgot that some of the like more endearing moments for Kelly and Judy, and some of the moments where I did see them as human, was when they were put next to the Jones family.
Yes,
because
I knew exactly.
Them, you know, like you could see them being like, well, we have to do this because when what's her name comes, what was Carol or whatever comes, Charlotte. Like she's gonna expect us to do, you know. And then they turned into like
there's so many different names.
Yeah, what is the name? Like, can somebody Google it? I'm dead. Like, what is
Cheryl, Carol, Charlotte.
When I don't care, I forget someone's name. So
yes, her name's gonna be like Bethany or something. Like we're just gonna be like totally off. But yes, Manny, like when they were when Kelly and Judy were fighting for the extra spot.
Yes.
And Jessica Jones, whatever her name is, was like.
Do we just move on to calling her Karen Jones or what?
Karen Jones. Thank you, Erica.
Oh gosh. And we're done. See ya.
No, we're not. Stay here. We have one more thing to talk about. I do really, we're going to wrap with this last question. We talked about her a little bit last time, but I do want to bring it back, come full circle here with Victoria. Have you guys seen any action from Victoria? Any updates? I see you smiling, Erica. What have you seen about Victoria that's making you like smile?
I am rooting for her. I feel like she was someone who really embodied having gone through the system. And she, you know, it was a dream of hers. She was indoctrinated into the program. And yet I don't know if it's because of her year away or her relationship with her mom and her mom's friendship with Kelly or whatever, but she just stood out as different. And I just think she was, you know, as a young 20-something, starting to question some of the things that were put in front of her. And so I really appreciated a lot of her candid thoughts with the camera crew and the conversations that came of that. She wasn't as indoctrinated in the sisterhood. And I think that started to, yeah, exactly. So I'm really rooting for her and finding, you know, what she wants to do with her life and having moved on from the situation. I feel like it would feel like recovering from a cult almost after the fact.
I mean, it's funny you say that. I was texting Manny and Steph about this when I first started watching it. And I was like, it's giving me like Stockholm syndrome. Like they are being abused by this institution. And yet they're just desiring like their approval and they're desiring being wanted by this organization that's just like abusing them from every angle. It's just so, it's like a cult. That's what it is. It's so crazy.
Yeah, you could kind of see that in the girls who are like the most recent ones who had to like, who kind of were like retired out. Like you could see them kind of questioning it. And I think that like, you know, for all that like I said, I have this love-hate relationship with this show. Like I really do love Thunderstruck. I love the routine. I love I love so many pieces of this show that I know we didn't really go into. But I think one of the things that made me the most happy was that camera being on Victoria actually helped her to see what she was really going through and to question it with her own moral authority that gave her the permission to walk away from something that was not benefiting her at all, you know, and that I think is like one of the most beautiful things. I think if you haven't followed her story, she is now in New York, I believe. And she's
Oh,
taking dance
good.
classes in the city, and she's like trying to audition for other like Broadway shows or other performances in
Rockets.
musicals. The Rockettes, yeah, that's what I thought it was. Okay, so she's just cut the cord from this organization and has really started like listening to her own inner self. It sounds like, or her higher self, and we love that for her. So
Yeah, that makes me happy. I just hope like something that they showed a lot, I feel like on the show was her complexity and her struggle with mental health clearly and probably eating disorders like we talked about last time. But then when they also showed her and her social media presence and this kind of facade that she would put on in front of the camera. And so I hope that what you see on social media and what she's doing right now is a little bit more true to who she is and her current experience, because that is a problem with social media. It's not a very accurate depiction of real life. And so, yeah.
but I kind of took it as she like embraced the story of being the warrior for women with like eating disorders and coming out and being like, this is what I kind of took it as that's the what route that she's taking of like
I
she's kind
hope
of
so.
owning it.
Yeah.
But that maybe that's not true. I don't know. But I'm
No,
gonna
I hope.
end on that positive note. So before we wrap up, are there any confessionals that you guys want to come to share with our listeners?
Just quickly, for me, I think as we've been talking about this topic so much of, love, hate, the inner complexities that we felt about the show, happens broader in the dance world or broader in other, like in my field, appearance focused sports. Like there's some things about these topics that are so common and relatable and not unique to DCC, but just again, the way the docuseries was done and just highlighting the both like old school aspects of this organization, kind of being rebranded, but just also that, the individual rights of these women to pursue this career opportunity and their, that being their goal and, autonomous decision, but also highlighting the problematic nature of the system that they are existing in. It just was so well done. And I think that's why I felt myself like rooting for them and their stories and their journey, but also appalled and just disgusted by some of the things that I was seeing that I've just been subject to for the last, 20 years of my life.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow.
I think
I
that's a
know.
big theme that we explore broadly is like two things can be true. It's not
Right.
everything isn't black and white. You can cheer for these women who we all want to, do well in this world and get through this chapter of their lives as gracefully as they can, and also kind of hate the institution that is taking them down this path. And both of those things can be true at the same time, which is a good reminder for me too.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Well, before we let Erica go,
Yay.
I we at the You Can Call Me Karen podcast are if you were ever a guest on our show, you were going to be subject to this part of guest appearing, which we're still feeling out the name, but I think we're going to call it Keep It Snappy.
Yeah, we're not. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. So basically, what we need you to do is answer these questions for us as quickly as you can, whatever first pops into your head. Okay. All right. So, first question: a dance performance you'll never forget, and why?
Trying out for the Ohio State dance team when my fake hair fell out because I thought I was killing it and I was exposed for something embarrassing. having the performance of my life. And did not spend as much time getting ready as a DCC girl with the blowout.
Yes. Oh.
Oh my
Amazing.
God. That is an amazing answer. Okay. Who is your favorite dancer of all time?
Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Oh, good answer.
Yes. She's fire. This is fire. Okay. Besides Danny Butler, what's your favorite snack?
Salty dark chocolate. Hope that's not too.
Oh, watch out. Okay. In a parallel world, you're living life as. Yeah.
Erica's like, I'm living my
cheerleader. I feel like after our conversation today.
Yes, you really are. Yes, guys, she's 6 foot in the parallel life. She makes it. There's no height requirement. Okay, I tried this with my co-host on our last Keep It Snappy / Rapid Fire. Let's see how you respond. Finish this sentence. It's 7 p.m. Friday.
And I'm sitting on my couch.
Thank you, Erica.
And I took off my work clothes 2 hours ago.
We didn't get it either, Erica. But apparently.
I'm healing. No, okay. All right. This is a little bit more serious, but what's a compliment you would recommend we say if we want to recognize someone looks good in their body?
We try to focus on things that are not appearance based, it's so wonderful to see you. You seem like you're glowing. You seem so happy. How are you? I love the way I feel when I'm with you. I love the way I feel when I'm around you. So I don't know. There is something to, because we don't know how someone's feeling in their body when we're complimenting it. So I think there's context there of how do we.
I love that answer. I love the way I feel when I'm around you. That is a yummy compliment. All right. Second to last question. Who's your favorite host on the You Can Call Me Karen podcast?
Whoa. I am calling my lawyer and pleading the fifth. Like, you're not tricking me into answering that.
And then finally, where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
Yes. So I haven't been as active recently, but I do share a lot with my community online at Instagram at Align Nutrition. And I also have a podcast called the Align Nutrition Podcast. Anyone is welcome to reach out to me via my website at alignnutrition.com.
And we will link everything in the show notes so everyone has access.
Find out more about my work there. Anything I can answer, get in touch.
Yay.
Thank you, Erica. It has been a pleasure to have you on our podcast as our first guest on the You Can Call Me Karen podcast. Thank you, listeners, for joining in. Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram, like and subscribe to our channel. Please leave us comments and reviews. We appreciate it very much. And we'll see you next week, Karens.